General Hospital spoilers tease that Brad has accepted money from Drew Kane and is ready to leave town. Of course, Brad informed Drew that it was Portia who took the ketamine from him, triggering Drew's recent scandal. The revelation of Brad's clandestine meeting with Drew Kane came like a thunderclap in the quiet halls of Port Charles. In the simplest of terms, Brad had agreed to take a sum of cash from the former special agent, money offered in exchange for information that would bring Portia Lloyd's loyalty into question. Drew, ever ruthless when it came to balancing power and revenge, needed leverage against the woman he saw as an obstacle, Portia's husband, Curtis Ashford. And so he paid Brad, instructing him to flee town as soon as the transaction was complete. But Brad, with his practiced poker face, had already tipped his hand. He told Drew the exact moment Portia extracted ketamine from his private stash. The same ketamine that later played a central role in Drew's public disgrace. In that viral video at the Savoy, an intoxicated Drew had been seen disrobing beside a stranger, the scandal engulfing his reputation. Unbeknownst to the public, the ketamine that fueled his weekend had come not from any illicit dealer in Port Charles, but directly from Brad's medicine cabinet. In a clandestine meeting behind the stately columns of Port Charles's old police station, Drew laid out his next move. With the proof of Portia's betrayal in hand, he had leverage. He confronted Portia in a dimly lit alleyway, his voice low and dangerous, urging her to turn over Aurora Media's confidential files. "Curtis has them, and you can get them for me," Drew hissed, his eyes glinting with expectation. It was a replay of old patterns. Drew, once the puppet master of Aurora's boardroom, sought to reclaim his dominion. But to regain control, he needed documents, proposals, budgets, acquisition plans. All locked away on Curtis' laptop in their marital home. Portia, caught between fear and defiance, considered her options. She knew Curtis guarded those files jealously, seeing Aurora's future as inseparable from his integrity. Stealing from her own husband felt like a betrayal not only of Curtis, but of every principle they had built together. And yet Drew's ultimatum was clear: comply, or watch the scandal of the Savoy disgrace eclipse everything Portia held dear. Already, her name had been whispered in gossip columns as a possible accomplice to Drew's downfall. If she refused, Drew would unleash the full weight of his knowledge, branding her a backstabbing opportunist. In the depth of her panic, Portia nearly gave in. But unbeknownst to Drew, she and Brad had woven a counterplot. That meeting with Brad had been orchestrated, the payment a lure rather than loyalty. Portia's supposed theft of the ketamine was only the first act in a play designed to ensnare Drew in his own machinations. When he demanded Aurora's secrets, she feigned resignation, requesting only access and promising to deliver the files by nightfall. Meanwhile, Brad prepared his own performance. His flight from Port Charles was to be his grand exit, disappearing with the cash and leaving Drew to grapple with an empty promise. But the truth was far more cunning. Brad planned to return at the crucial moment, revealing Drew's duplicity in front of the men and women of power who still looked to Drew as a leader. As dusk fell on Port Charles, Portia crept into the Ashford residence, heart pounding. Curtis slept soundly in the master bedroom, the soft hum of his laptop near the desk drawing her attention. She rifled through folders, transferring files into a flash drive. Her mind whirled with guilt, but she steeled herself. This was a necessary misstep to protect her marriage and their mutual dreams. Outside, Brad stood at the corner, ready to intercept the flash drive. Night deepened over the city as Portia slipped out and handed the encrypted drive to Brad. His eyes reflected the streetlight's flicker as he nodded and disappeared into the shadows, bound for Drew Kane's safe house. Unaware of the trap closing around him, Drew paced in his hideout, anticipation crackling in the stale air. Upon Brad's arrival, Drew wasted no time. He flipped open the drive, scanning the contents. His grin widened, until he noticed those familiar encrypted headers. Portia, in her haste to play the traitor, had left a breadcrumb for Drew's downfall. The files were indeed Aurora projects, but not secret acquisitions. They were open proposals, publicly filed documents that held no value to a man hungering for corporate sabotage. Realizing he had been duped, Drew's fury ignited, but before he could raise an alarm, the flashing lights of a police cruiser illuminated the alley. Detectives had been tipped off to Drew's location by an anonymous source. Lulu Spencer, working with Maxie Jones and Brad, had orchestrated Drew's capture once and for all. The once feared former agent, caught with falsified evidence and in the act of extortion, found himself manhandled into custody. As officers slapped the cold metal cuffs onto his wrists, Drew looked up to see Brad step forward, the stolen money crumpled in his fist. "You thought I'd take your blood money and vanish, didn't you?" Brad spat, voice icy. "But it's your games that end tonight." Shocked by the betrayal, Drew's bravado cracked. His empire of secrets, built on manipulation and fear, unraveled in that gritty alley. The public downfall of Drew Kane would soon become the talk of Port Charles, eclipsed only by the scandalous rumors of Portia's involvement, rumors she was prepared to quash with one call to her husband. In the aftermath, Portia emerged from the shadows to meet Curtis at Aurora Media. He saw the fear in her eyes, but also the fierce determination. There, amidst sleek desks and illuminated screens, Portia confessed all. Curtis, at first stunned, recognized the layers of protection and desperation that drove her choices. He took her hand, offering forgiveness tempered by the knowledge that love sometimes demands sacrifice and deception for the greater good. Back at the Quartermain mansion, Lulu and Maxie celebrated quietly, not out of joy at Drew's fall, but relief at the restoration of balance. Brad, now free of his lies, planned to stay in Port Charles, his allegiance to Portia and Curtis unshakable. And Drew, behind bars, would have ample time to reflect on the cycles of betrayal he set in motion. This dramatic trap will redefine loyalties in Port Charles. Brad and Portia's alliance has proven more formidable than Drew could ever anticipate, and the Ashfords emerged stronger after surviving the storm. But in a town where secrets fester and ambitions collide, the echoes of this betrayal will resonate for months to come, setting the stage for fresh alliances, new rivalries, and the ever-present question, who will hold the next secret that could topple an empire? In the days that followed, Portia returned to Aurora Media with a newfound sense of purpose. The company's boardroom, once a battleground for power plays, now welcomed her leadership. She spearheaded a transparency initiative, publishing quarterly project updates that surprised even Curtis with her bold vision. Together, they walked the halls of the office, hand in hand, rebuilding trust among their colleagues and quieting the rumors of her involvement in corporate espionage. Her pain of betrayal became a source of empathy, and under her stewardship, Aurora's public image soared to unprecedented heights. Curtis, meanwhile, found himself reassessing what it meant to protect one's own. In his role as Chief Operating Officer, he had always valued integrity over expedience. But Portia's sacrifice forced him to confront the darker corners of power. When he discovered the lengths to which Brad and Lulu had gone to safeguard his family, Curtis extended a formal pardon to Brad, inviting him to join the Aurora security team. Brad, once a reluctant conspirator, flourished in his new capacity, his keen instincts for detail turning him into an invaluable asset. At General Hospital, Drew Kane languished behind bars, grappling with the consequences of his overreach. The whispers he had once commanded with a single phone call now mocked him through steel bars and barred windows. His legal team scrambled to negotiate a plea deal, but Drew's reputation lay in tatters. He had underestimated Portia's resolve and misjudged the loyalty of those he thought were pawns. In solitary moments, he replayed Brad's betrayal and cursed himself for believing the world still revolved around his schemes. Meanwhile, Lulu and Maxie shared quiet triumphs. In a private celebration at the Floating Rib, they toasted to loyalty and friendship. Yet, even as they laughed, both women sensed that another threat was brewing beneath the surface of Port Charles. The Corinthos Empire, shaken by recent events, was stirring, and whispers of a power vacuum reached their ears. Maxie, drawing upon her own experiences with secrets and redemption, urged Lulu to prepare for whatever came next. For Brad, the ordeal marked a turning point. His loyalty to Portia and Curtis had been forged in danger, and he now stood at a crossroads. When Aurora's board offered him a permanent role overseeing external investigations, he accepted without hesitation, driven by a need to atone for his past. Each dossier he reviewed, each security protocol he enacted, reminded him that true strength lay not in money or manipulation, but in standing up for those who matter most. Late one evening, as Portia closed the doors to her office, she paused to look at a framed photograph, herself, Curtis, Lulu, and Brad, arms entwined in solidarity. In that moment, she realized that secrets could either destroy or unite, depending on how they were wielded. Her marriage had survived deception, and her career had emerged stronger from scandal. Yet, even amid their triumphs, the question lingered: who in Port Charles was watching, waiting for the next misstep? As the city settled into a restless calm, the alliance of Portia, Curtis, Brad, Lulu, and Maxie stood ready, knowing that in a place where power and secrecy intersected, vigilance would forever be their greatest shield.